So this is stage 2 of the aquaponics system. So it's got some black polythene cover. It's got 2 layers of this black polythene along the base of the pond and the glasshouse base here. So that's a 4 meter by 25 meter roll that I used, and that was about $100 from Mitre 10. And then there's this fine gravel that I got from a landscape. So this is just a fine pea gravel, and that was another $100 for a cubic meter. So that's filled up that space. That's a 10 by 8 by 12 foot glass house space there. And then the base of this, I've just put in some river stones. So I'm going to continue the river stones along the edge with some fine gravel up the front there, and plant out the middle with some aquatic plants, and then leave this front area here grassed with some fine gravel, and then that will be a place to feed the fish. And then around the outside of that is going to be some perennial overhanging plants that will all kind of hang over into the water and disguise the black polythene along the sides. So connecting the glass house to the pond is this little drain here. So the drain has got this black pipe, and it's gravelled with some stones on the top, and then on top of that has been layered the grass sod. And the grass sod, there was a shelf that was set on the edge of the pond, so the pond liner goes under that and has been pinned down, and then the grass sod has been replaced on top, so that you'll get a continuous grass edge around there for the viewing platform. And then some of the topsoil from the pond was put up here, and I've got some various perennials and some cover crops growing there that will take off. It's coming into winter now, so it should be a nice planting by spring. So here we got a backyard aquaponics design. So we've got a 10 by 12 foot glass house and a pond next to that, and the water line of the pond is level with the bottom third of the gravel that's in the glass house, and that ensures that the glass house growing medium never quite dries out completely, which is good. You know, if there's some power failure of the pump that's putting water through the glass house, it will never quite dry out completely in the glass house. And then it creates a nice little aquascaped backyard feature of having the pond there, that you can play around and do different types of design with it. In this particular case, I've got kind of a landscape around the outside of the pond, so I'll grow different kind of flowering perennial plants there. And then behind that berm, I've got a few fruit trees already established. I'll extend on that planting a little bit with different types of fruit trees, and then have some chickens foraging amongst those fruit trees down the back to keep that space a bit open. But I'll restrict their entry to the front of the pond, so that's more dense kind of flower-based planting that will overhang into that pond and create a nice kind of attractive feature, and also habitat for the fish that are in the pond. At the moment this is coming into winter, so I will plant lilies and irises in the pond, but in winter they'll die off. So to give some shelter and protection to the fish, I've also created this little island that's on some just some plant pots in there, and those plant pots I've made holes in so that the juvenile fish can find refuge inside those pots from being eaten by some of the bigger fish that will be in the pond. So that allows the big fish to breed and the little fish to have some shelter in there. And then as the plants on that island grow up, they'll obscure the kind of the wooden outline of that island that you see now, and will kind of overhang into the pond and create some extra habitat. So I've deliberately created some kind of low overhang shrubs in that island that will do that, and then some tussocky grasses along this edge. And then the irrigation from the glass house runs along 4 black polythene pipes that run through the glass house, and then every 10 centimeters there's a little hole in that, and that's just buried underneath the level of the gravel, so it would normally be covered up like the rest of the glass house that you wouldn't see. And then you can plant into that gravel, which is really good for growing cuttings because it's nice, free draining, warm, wet medium for growing cuttings. So just about any type of shrub or herb you can put into that gravel and it will grow really nicely, and then you can transfer those shrubs, those cuttings around the rest of the garden once they become established. But just about any plant you can grow really nicely in that medium. So along the back there I'll grow some more subtropical plants like maybe ginger or turmeric or cacao or coffee. So those kind of plants which wouldn't normally produce fruit well in this environment, which is very temperate but not quite warm enough for those more tropical plants, but I can grow them quite nicely in the greenhouse environment here. And then I have lots of different cuttings along the side with a clear path in the middle, and then I'll set up some more shelving about a metre high along the sides of the glasshouse, and then on that shelving I'll put the seedlings for the garden before I put them out into the garden. So this creates a nice environment for establishing plants in early spring for planting out in the garden. And then the excavation of the soil for the glasshouse and the pond, I created this hugelculture mound here. So at the base of that is some cuttings from a tree outside, and then all the soil from the excavation went on top of that, and then I've got a green winter cover crop growing on top of that. And then the idea is from the clothesline here there'll be an avenue of kind of herbs and vegetables lining both sides, and some small fruit trees that will be pruned down to a small height, and then you can walk along here and get your fruit and vegetables. And then down the back here is the line of fruit trees where the chickens will be, so there'll be a fenced off area there for them.